Peace everybody, back with another video. This is a breaking news. Trump announces plasma treatment authorized for COVID-19. So Donald Trump has announced the plasma treatment that is authorized for COVID-19. And as you can see here is Donald Trump himself. So this was the big announcement, but before this, he did announce about the fires that are going on in California right now, the wildfires. So he made an announcement about that first, and then then he went on to do this. After expressing frustration at the slow pace of approval for coronavirus treatments, President Donald Trump announced Sunday the emergency authorization of convalescent plasma for COVID-19 patients. So he has have announced about this after expressing frustration as the slow pace of approval for coronavirus treatments. All right. So Donald Trump has announced Sunday the emergency authorization of convalescent plasma. The announcement came after days of White House officials suggesting there were politically motivated delays by the Food and Drug Administration in approving a vaccine and therapeutics for the disease that has upended Trump's re-election chances. Alright, so the announcement did come days of White House officials suggesting there were politically motivated delays by the Food and Drug Administration in approving a vaccine and therapeutics. But now they're trying to say that it has upended Trump's re-election chances. No, it has not upended Trump's re-election chances, because he's still going to be president, whether you like it or not. On the eve of the Republican National Convention, Trump issued the emergency order. It would make it easier for some patients to obtain the treatment in a news conference Sunday evening, according to White House officials. So the eve, which is today, the eve of the Republican National Convention, because starting tomorrow is the Republican National Convention from tomorrow to Thursday. All right. So Trump has issued the emergency order. It would make it easier for some patients to obtain the treatment in a news conference Sunday evening, which we all just seen, according to White House officials. The blood plasma taken from patients who have recovered from the coronavirus and rich in antibodies may provide benefits for those battling with the disease, but the evidence so far has not been conclusive about whether it works, when to administer it, and what does it needed. Well, yeah, they're still doing further data tests on it, on the plasma, the blood plasma taken from patients who have recovered from the coronavirus and rich in antibodies. Many provide benefits to those battling with the disease as well. But the evidence so far has not been conclusive. Of course not, because they still got to do more tests on a lot of things like the blood plasma and everything else. In a letter describing the emergency authorization, the chief scientist for the FDA, Denise Hinton, noted COVID-19 convalescent plasma should not be considered a new standard of care for the treatment of patients with COVID-19. Additional data will be forthcoming from other analyses and ongoing, well-controlled clinical trials in the coming months. So we got this alleged letter describing the emergency authorization. All right, the chief scientist for the FDA, Denise Hinton, noted COVID-19 convalescent plasma should not be considered a new standard of care for the treatment of patients with COVID-19. Well, why shouldn't it be if the people are doing testing on it every day and night? People have been working day and night to get these tests done. That's what these people, that's all they do is do tests day and night. The White House has grown agitated with the pace of the plasma approval, but because accusations of a slowdown which were presented without evidence were just the latest assault from Trump's team on the deep state bureaucracy. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows did not deal in specifics, but said that we've looked at a number of people that are not being vigilant as they should be in terms of getting to the bottom of it. So now the White House had grown agitated with the pace of the plasma approval. How is the White House getting agitated when that's not true at all? See what the Associated Press does, which were presented without evidence, were just the latest assault from Trump's team on the deep state bureaucracy. Well, the deep state is getting a little nervous now because their time is coming to be out the door, and now they're getting, and that's why they're getting scared now, because now they know that the plasma is going to help, and the Democrats can't stand it. So this is why they are running for their lives now. And of course, it says, we've looked at a number of people that are not being vigilant as they should be in terms of getting to the bottom of it. Well, people are not, should be, I don't know, why would she say that people are not being as vigilant? Well, there are some people that could refuse. There are. You can't force people to do what they don't want to do. So this is why they think, oh, well, they could just force anybody with a vaccine. No, they can't. This president is about cutting red tape, Meadows said in an interview this week on ABC. He had to make sure that they felt the heat. If they don't see the light, they need to feel the heat because the American people are suffering. Well, I wonder why, because the Democrats are the ones that are killing us, literally, allegedly, because they don't care about the American people, the Democrats. They want us to die so they could take over this whole planet, which they are not allowed to have. It is strictly forbidden. They think they're so slick, but they're not. And these Democrats are running for their lives now because millions of people know we're onto them. And there are some sheeple that are in the millions too that still are not waking up. But you better need to wake up and realize what they're doing to us. The push on Sunday came a day after Trump tweeted sharp criticism on the process to treat the virus, which has killed more than 175,000 Americans and imperiled his re-election chances. The White House has sunk vast resources into an expedient process to develop a vaccine, and Trump aides have been banking on it being an October surprise that could help the president make up ground in the polls. Well, first of all, the polls that you see on TV are not true. They're all fake polls. Why do you think they're pushing for old Biden? Because they want him to be in the White House, but that's not going to happen. And Kamala Harris, she better get them knee pads ready, because you know when she said she would do anything for Joe Biden, yeah, think about it. 175,000 Americans have been killed. How? When the numbers are real low in each state, and yet here they're jacking up the numbers because they want to implicate the numbers, inflate the numbers even more, so that the people are forced more to give up the plasma or whatever it is. The deep state, or whoever over at the FDA, is making it very difficult for drug companies to get people in order to test the vaccines and therapeutics, Trump tweeted. Obviously, they are hoping to delay the answer until after November 3rd. Must focus on speed and saving lives. Yeah, so the deep state or whoever over at the FDA is making it very difficult. Of course, they're making it difficult because they're blocking it and say, oh no, we're not going to approve this. Boom, we're going to block it. Yeah, of course, because they don't want people to take the medicine for the COVID-19. So this is why they're doing what they're doing. They're acting like little kids. They need to knock it off, but knowing them, they're so evil. They don't care about nothing. Of course, obviously, they are hoping to delay the answer until after November 3rd. So in other words, after the election, and most focus on speed and saving lives. Earlier this month, Mayo Clinic researchers reported a strong hint that blood plasma from COVID-19 survivors helped other infected patients recover, but it wasn't considered proof. So yeah, so there was no proof of it, that it helped other infected patients recover. There's not one shred of proof of it. So why do you think that is? And also, it says earlier this month, Mayo Clinic's researchers reported a strong hint that blood plasma for COVID-19, obviously. More than 70,000 patients in the U.S. have been given convalescent plasma, a century-old approach to fend off flu and measles before vaccines. It's a go-to tactic when new disease come along, and history suggests it works against some but not all infections. So so now you got 70,000 patients in the U.S. have been given convalescent plasma. It's a century-old approach to fend off flu and measles as well. If you never had the measles, you'll probably get them somewhere along the way, but the people who had them, it's not going to affect you. It's a go-to tactic when new diseases come along, and history suggests it works against some but not all infections. So not all of them are going to work against the infections. There's no solid evidence yet that it fights the coronavirus, and if so, how best to use it. So far there's no solid evidence yet, not single one at all. The Mayo Clinic reported preliminary data from 35,000 coronavirus patients treated with plasma and said there were fewer deaths among people given plasma with 3 days of diagnosis, and also among those given plasma containing the highest level of virus-fighting antibodies. So you got this Mayo Clinic who has been reporting preliminary data from 35,000 coronavirus patients treated with plasma. And he said there were fewer deaths among people given plasma within 3 days of diagnosis. So he only had 3 days of diagnosis. And also among those given plasma containing the highest level of virus-fighting antibodies. But it wasn't a formal study. The patients were treated in different ways in hospitals around the country as part of an FDA program designed to speed access to the experimental therapy. That so-called expanded access program tracks what happens to the recipients, but cannot prove the plasma, and not other care they received was the real reason for approval. So it wasn't a formal study. The patients were treated in different ways in hospitals. And before you start saying, oh, the hospitals were full, this and that. No, they was not full. The hospitals were empty, literally, when this mess came out to begin with. There was no way the hospitals were full. There was no way that the funeral homes were full. So all of that is BS right there. Different ways in hospitals around the country as part of the FDA program designed to speed access to the experimental therapy. That so-called expanded access program tracks what happens to the recipients, but it cannot prove the plasma. All right, so it cannot prove the plasma, and not other care they received was the real reason for improvement. Administration officials in a call with reporters Sunday discussed a benefit for patients who were within 3 days of admission to a hospital and were not on a respirator and were given high titer convalescent plasma containing higher concentrations of antibodies. They were then compared to similar patients who were given lower titer plasma. The findings suggest deaths were 35% lower in the higher titer group. Yes, so the deaths were 35% lower. Not with all these made up numbers. Oh well, this and that. No, because those numbers that they're inflating are not true. They want you to believe the fake numbers, but it's not true, because all those inflated numbers. Oh, this many people have died, this many people survived, oh, there's this many cases, there's that many cases. No. There's been little data on how effective it is on whether it must be administered fairly early in an illness to make a significant difference, said Dr. William Schaffner, an infectious disease expert at Vanderbilt University. So you got this Dr. William Schaffner, an infectious disease experiment at Vanderbilt University. He says there's been little data on how effective it is or whether it must be administered fairly early in an illness to make it a significant difference. Aiming to ward off a run on convalescent plasma after the announcement, government officials have been working to obtain plasma and to team with corporate partners and nonprofit organizations to generate interest among previously infected patients to donate. Well, for you that want to donate plasma, good luck to you. But for other people that are not going to do it, we're lucky. We don't have to. I'm aiming to ward off a possible run on convalescent plasma after the announcement. Government officials have been working to obtain plasma and to team with corporate partners. In other words, the CDC, the WHO, and whoever else is right along in there with that. The head of the FDA, Stephen Hahn, said Trump did not speak to him about the timing of the announcement, which comes just before a pivotal week for the president's re-election chances. Hahn said this has been in the works for several weeks and came after a data validation for which the agency had been waiting. Now we got the head of the FDA, Stephen Hahn. He said that Trump did not speak to him about the timing of the announcement. Excuse me, but Trump talks to everybody. I don't know why would Stephen Hahn even say that about Trump, saying, oh, he did not talk to him. Trump talks with everybody. No ands, ifs, and buts about it. He talks with a lot of people. And Stephen Hahn is over here saying, oh, he did not speak to him about the timing of the announcement. Excuse me? What does Stephen Hahn know what Trump is doing? He doesn't know what Trump is doing. Of course, Trump is talking business with everybody because he's a businessman. Rigorous studies underway around the country are designed to get that proof by comparing similar patients randomly assigned to get plasma or a dummy infusion in addition to regular care. But those studies have been difficult to finish as the virus waxes and wanes in different cities. Also, some patients have requested plasma rather than agreeing to a study that might give them a placebo instead. So there's rigorous studies has been underway, all right, around the country, and are designed to get that proof by comparing similar patients randomly assigned to get plasma or a dummy infusion in addition to regular care. So they have to get a dummy infusion of it. And of course, but those studies have been difficult to finish as the virus waxes and wanes in different cities. Well, of course, because all this is garbage. Former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb dismissed the suggestion of a slowdown. So he dismissed the suggestion of a slowdown, really. I firmly reject the idea they would slow walk anything or escalate anything based on any political consideration or any consideration other than what is best for the public health and a real sense of mission to patients. Gottlieb told CBS Face the Nation, and of course he would have to go blab everything to that fake news media to switch narratives. He says, I firmly reject the idea they would slow walk anything or escalate anything based on any political consideration or any consideration other than what is best for the public health and a real sense of mission to patients. Well, Donald Trump has put in Operation Warp Speed. And now this doctor here is saying, oh, well, all this and that now, really? And of course, he was on Gottlieb told CBS's Face the Nation. Well, CBS is a bunch of liars too, so because they don't want to hear the truth because it don't fit their narrative. Hundreds of drugs are currently being developed as possible treatments against the coronavirus infection, taking a range of approaches. Yes, so there are hundreds of drugs that are currently being developed as possible treatments. So it can be a number of anything against the coronavirus infection, taking a range of approaches. So who knows how many they got to be developed as possible treatments. Trump in news conference has made all kinds of therapeutic suggestions which have not proven to be supported by science and are even dangerous, Schaffner said. That includes statements about the possible value of treating COVID-19 patients with ultraviolet light and bleach. Bleach now? Come on. Bleach? Really? Donald Trump never said to treat it with bleach. These fake news media, they added it in there to make it look like he said it. That's what they did. They edited it. You cannot drink bleach because you know what will happen? You know what it'll do to you? To your insides? Really? Then you got to be rushed to the hospital. That's why this fake news media edited this and said bleach. Because they want to make him look bad and say, oh, you got to drink bleach, this and... No! He never said that. Trump reportedly also recently became enthusiastic about oleandrin, a plant extract derived from a toxic shrub that scientists immediately warned against. Now, we don't know nothing about oleandrin. I never even heard of that plant. It's a plant extract derived from a toxic shrub. I don't know anything about that at all, but these fake scientists, they're going really too far with this. But the president is perhaps best known for his early and ardent embrace of the malaria drugs hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. So yes, so the president is perhaps best known for his early ardent embrace for the malaria drugs, hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. That is it. The FDA in late March granted emergency authorization for distribution of the drugs for treating COVID, but in June the agency revoked the authorization in light of growing evidence that they don't work and could cause serious side effects. What side effects are they talking about? Because I have not heard anything about no side effects. No. And now the FDA is saying, they revoked it after it's been on the market for 65 plus years. Yeah. And of course, the FDA in late March granted emergency authorization to distribution of the drugs for treating COVID-19. But in June, the agency revoked the authorization in light of growing evidence that they don't work. Well, of course, you know who's going to stop it? The Democrats. They say, oh, well, we're going to block this then. They said it doesn't work. Okay, we're going to block this. Then we're not going to let the people have it. Whatever happened to your rights that you have a right to try certain medications? But instead, you get these Democratic governors that are executive order. Oh, no, we're not going to let you try them. Think about it. Not only that, the FDA warned doctors against prescribing the drugs in combination with remdesivir, a drug that was known to help patients with COVID-19. The FDA said the anti-malaria drugs can reduce the effectiveness of remdesivir, which the FDA cleared for emergency use in May. Yes, so now the FDA is warning the doctors against prescribing the drugs in combination with remdesivir. So they're telling the doctors, oh no, you can't prescribe this. You can't prescribe this malaria drug to these people because they don't work. Well, the FDA needs to stay out of it and mind their business. Stop telling these doctors what to do, the real doctors. So the FDA said that anti-malaria drugs can reduce the effectiveness of remdesivir, which the FDA clearly for emergency use in May. Yes, so it can be used for emergency use. But knowing the Democrat governors, they're going to sign another executive order saying, no, you can't try this. Watch. Mark my words about it. Earlier this month, Han emphasized the routine elevation producers will remain in place to evaluate COVID vaccine candidates. So earlier this month, Han did emphasize that routine evaluation procedures will remain in place to evaluate COVID vaccine candidates. I think this administration has put more pressure on the Food and Drug Administration than I can remember ever happening in the past, Schaffner said. So he thinks that the administration has put more pressure on the Food and Drug Administration. Well, when you got Donald Trump there, you better put some pressure on them to get something approved. Everybody is just a little bit nervous, he said. Well, of course people are going to be nervous because they're afraid, oh, this is not going to work, blah, blah, blah. Then the FDA has to go and revoke the approval again. No, I don't think so. And of course, the FDA is just likes blocking everything just like the Democrats do, obviously, because they don't want you trying this or trying that, especially when it comes to the Democratic governors signing their executive order saying, oh, well, no, we're not going to let you try this. Leave your comments below. I am out.